I'm Carol Harvey, San Francisco investigative journalist. I created this video in collaboration with Treasure Islanders and other involved parties. We're reporting 2 recent toxin exposures on Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay from a toxic dump the Navy left on the island, euphemistically called the West Side Solid Waste Disposal Area, or SWDA, pronounced SWEDA by the Navy. The Code of Federal Regulations, CFR Title 40, Part 300, mandates distances of 200 feet from cleanup zones for residences, daycare centers, and workplace areas. Treasure Island toxic dumps sit within 5 to 10 feet of island residents and workers. The U.S. Navy has violated this law for 33 years, placing people living, working, and visiting this tourist spot in the San Francisco neighborhood in immediate and long-term danger from radiation, chemicals, heavy metals, and undiscovered exploding weapons. During a February 8, 2021 hearing, 2 state agency officials guaranteed that if people obeyed warning signs and stayed outside fences surrounding the Navy's toxic cleanup zones, they would be safe from exposure to radiation, chemicals, and other toxins. On questioning by Matt Haney, SF Supervisor for Treasure Island, California Department of Public Health agent Anthony Chu replied,
"Is there radiological risk at Treasure Island? There is. It is a contaminated site. The engineering control measures that's put in place, such as the distance, the signage, the fencing, that goes a long way in protecting the public and the residents there."
Haney questioned Singh, also of the California Department of Public Health.
How do you describe your understanding of the health risk to current residents?
There is radiological contamination at Treasure Island. It's present in the SWDAs, which are still undergoing remediation. There is no immediate risk to the residents living there.
Dr. Singh bypassed the long-term risks of developing cancer from radiation exposure. She denied the immediate risk of dying or being burned after contact with a radioactive object, when in fact islanders have come in contact with radioactive objects and been burned.
There are engineering controls in place. Postings, fencing, access on these sites is pretty restricted.
In spring-summer 2021, the Navy stated they had placed even tighter access restrictions to protect people from shrapnel exploding inside the cleanup zone. These new engineering control restrictions are based on the Navy's excavation and weekly detonations of World War II weapons, Mk2 hand grenades, and Japanese mortars. Verified by this quote from a Navy document. The Navy first found Mk2 hand grenades and Japanese mortars in this toxic dump in 2004. They continue removing them in 2021, 17 years later. This map shows the green tarp fence that restricts access to the cleanup zone. This close-up shows the entrance gate. In this Navy diagram, a purple line encircles the gate, and a line from the lower right marks the gate as an access control point. The purpose of this access control point enclosure was to limit non-essential personnel from site and vicinity access, to protect them from hazardous fragmentation caused by exploding material. Despite these engineering controls during winter-spring 2021, access restricted by signs, distance, and fences failed to protect 2 people passing this toxic dump. Wind blasts were blowing toxic dust through this opening in the fence at 1317 Gateview Avenue, where 2 yellow radiation signs inside the fence indicate that workers after decades are still removing radioactive material from this dump. On March 24, a resident passing a few feet from the fence was struck in the face and eyes by wind gusts through the opening in the tarp, carrying debris and unknown toxins. They were so alarmed they shot this video to document the spot. Black plastic coverings are blowing from 2 exposed uncovered soil piles next to Townhouse 1317, leaving this person's face and eyes exposed to toxic dust gusting out of the cleanup zone. 2 weeks later, on April 14th, a second passerby was struck in the face by a blast of dusty wind at the same spot. The second victim developed similar symptoms, but they disappeared in 25 minutes. The first person who was hit 2 weeks earlier was riding in their wheelchair along this sidewalk toward the opening in the fence at the far end of Townhouse 1317. Blowing tarps had created an opening in the fence, only a few feet from the Navy's access control point at the entrance gate. They followed the fence fence till they reach the other end of the building where the opening is. There's a tarp blowing in the wind. They start to cross the street by that black car to follow their companion, who was running after their little dog, who was fascinated by the geese in this little park behind the Avenue B bus stop. On his way over there, he stopped to do his business somewhere near that curb, and the companion had to clean it up. The wheelchair-bound person is moving down the sidewalk toward the opening in the fence. When they reach the far end of 1317, which is inside the fence, and the opening where the tarp was blowing, the building was no longer blocking the wind gusts. At that point, they got a blast of dust carrying toxins full in the face. On the second occasion, the person runs into the street, passing into the blast zone where the tarp is blowing, creating an opening in the fence. This is a blast zone of exploding, radioactive chemicalized shrapnel blasted on dust and plastic particles into two people's eyes. This is the spot where both people were struck by wind gusts through the opening in the fence, where the building ends and the tarp is blowing. Toxins on dust particles turned their eyes red and made their face and lips swell and feel burned. Now they worry about permanent damage to their eyes. A few feet down the sidewalk, the man is opening the entrance gate into the West Side solid waste disposal area. The yellow signs mark it as a radiation cleanup zone. We turn the camera back down Gateview Avenue in the direction we just came from. The person rolled their wheelchair under that distant tree and followed the sidewalk toward us, to just about where that tarp is blowing at the end of Townhouse 1317. The wind blasted them in the face at that point. They weren't protected from the wind by the house, and the tarp was blowing open. The person started wheeling across Gateview to meet their companion, who was picking up dog stuff from the street. Just as they were approaching the area where the red car is parked, that's where they got hit with this toxic dust in the face, at the precise point of the black star. The companion wasn't hit because they were on the other side of the street by the black car chasing the dog. So, contrary to health officials' assurances, fencing around a toxic dump failed to protect an island resident. But also, visitors and workers are constantly exposed at openings in fencing. People who the Navy calls non-essential personnel work in the area, both inside and outside the green tarped fence. This Admiral security worker parked at the opening in the fence will cruise this area multiple times a day. Workers constantly stand near or pass through this entrance gate. Here, a worker trucks toxic soil out of the gate, and here, 3 Navy workers move toxic materials through the gate. This is the main entrance off Gateview Avenue into the West Side solid waste disposal area. Inside the gate, wind-torn black plastic sheeting leaves dirt exposed. This gate has been here for a long time. There's been major activity by the Navy in this cleanup zone at this gate. 17 years ago, in 2004, the Navy was surprised by unexpected discoveries behind this gate. They found unexploded military-grade weapons and at least 600 highly radioactive objects, and they are still finding them today. Do you see the radiation signs? Radiating triangles on a yellow field. It tells you that it's a radiation cleanup zone. Note the yellow radiation signs inside the gate. Are you measuring radiation with that box?
It doesn't measure radiation.
Behind this fence, workers could have been detonating unexploded ordnance when 2 passers-by were struck in the eyes. Listen to the power of those blasting gusts of wind. What is that device? What's it used for?
Counts per minute.
Do you know that they're digging out explosives from this area?
I do. That's why they set parameters.
So what do you mean by parameters?
There's a safety field that everybody has to stay away from.
Where does the safety field start?
Well, within here.
He gestured behind himself. These 2 exposures prompted us to start investigating, to find out what is hidden behind the fence in this large toxic site. Is the fence meant to protect us or hide what they're doing in there? From bits of information the Navy provides, we asked 2 questions. 1, can we piece together activities inside this toxic dump? 2, can we guess what toxins struck 2 vulnerable people in the face and eyes? As we scan through 7 areas on this map, please use the pause button to find each one. 1 lower right, the fence. The point of the green arrow touches the black border surrounding this large cleanup zone. Navy map of this large cleanup zone. From Gateview Avenue, looking over the locked entrance into this toxic dump, you can see the green fence bordering the island, with the San Francisco skyline across the bay in the distance. From the shoreline looking back across the cleanup zone, we're standing on the perimeter path that circles the island. 2, the red down arrow points to the opening in the fence on the blast zone, where 2 people were hit with toxins. At the yellow up arrow, wind gusts blew toxic dust off 2 soil piles next to Townhouse 1317. 3, the black down arrow points to the Suida Gate. The purple circle marks the main gate into this toxic dump off Gateview Avenue. A drone shot looking down at the gate. Here a worker opens the gate to let a truck come through. Looking back from the shore across this toxic dump, we can see the gate with a white truck parked in front of it, workers scanning the soil for radiation and unexploded ordnance, and Townhouse 1317 on the far right. 4, soil piles. There are 3 red soil piles. 1 red soil pile to the left of the Suida Gate and 2 red soil piles to the right of the Suida Gate. These soil piles inside the gate are barely covered by black plastic sheeting. Black plastic sheeting has blown off this soil pile and become wrapped in tatters in the mound of dirt it once covered. 5, a safety field the worker tells us everyone has to stay away from. We figured that to protect people, the safety field must sit between the fence and the shipping containers. So the 2 parts of the safety field must sit on either side of the Suida Gate. This map depicts a 2-part safety field circled in blue between the yellow shipping containers and the green fence. This simpler map depicts the safety field. A space set up between the green fence and rows of yellow shipping containers to protect the public and non-essential personnel from explosions inside the search field. 6 shipping containers. Behind that pile of dirt, Navy workers apparently arranged shipping containers to act as a border of the safety field. This excerpt from a Navy document said they were using steel-lined shipping containers to reduce hazardous fragmentation distance, meaning they say they're trying to protect people from weapons they're blowing up. Apparently by creating barriers to reduce the distance fragments fly during explosions. 2 rows of shipping containers sit to the left of the safety field, and 1 row of shipping containers sits to the right of the safety field. Shipping containers lined up in rows. 7, the 2 search fields circled in red. From the shore we see 2 separate search fields in this toxic dump. In each search field we see soil piles and shipping containers. According to Navy reports, these workers in the distance at the Suida Gate and these workers to the left of the Suida Gate are picking through the dirt and soil piles in these search fields with metal detectors, looking for 1, radioactive objects in soils, 2, metal fragments, and 3, weapons the Navy can detonate and blow up. Second question, what toxins immediately affected 2 people's eyes and skin? 1, radiation. Yes, not only is radiation a slow-acting cancer-causing agent, but if a person picks up a certain type of radioactive object, or radiation enters a person's body through the eyes, nose, and mouth at close range, they can suffer severe radiation burns or die within 30 hours. 2, chemicals. Yes, the Navy has been removing chemicals from this toxic dump for 25 to 30 years. Chemicals can cling to dust and have an immediate effect. Could they have been struck by shrapnel from exploding weapons? Yes. Workers are blowing up weapons in this toxic dump. Could they have been hit in the eyes with plasticized tackifier drawing on dust particles? Yes. Looking inland across this large cleanup zone, we see swaths of light green tackifier sprayed on the soil to hold the dirt in place in the island's extremely high winds. Despite what EPA officials and the Navy called engineering controls, distance fences and warning signs, coatings of tackifier sprayed on the soil and shipping containers, creating barriers. 2 people passing by outside this cleanup zone fence were struck in the face and eyes by wind gusts full of dust-carrying toxins through an opening created by an untethered tarp blowing free from the fence. Toxins on dust particles irritated one person's eyes and turned the other's eyes red and made them feel burned. During public comment at the February 8, 2021 hearing, Eric Brooks summarized the problem.
This is Eric Brooks. I coordinate the local grassroots organization, Our City, San Francisco. I want to just crystallize what we've just witnessed to some really simple things that are pretty shocking. We had agency representatives say that the public will be protected by fences with warning signs on them. Dust does not respect fences. Water does not respect fences. And toxins move through dust and water. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, I ignored signs and I climbed fences. The idea that fences are going to protect anyone is ludicrous. This is just crazy that these agencies are telling us these things. Investigation needs to happen.